Good morning, History of St. Louis. Today we are going to focus on two of the most famous neighborhoods in the St. Louis City zip code. These two private streets are considered to be the most expensive pieces of real estate in the city of St. Louis, and part of the bigger neighborhood known as the Central West End that we are studying. Um, These neighborhoods date back to just before the 1904 World's Fair, and are still some of the most elegant houses in the St. Louis area. You're talking houses that some of them are in excess of $2 million. Some of these houses have 15,000 square feet. So just we're talking about a whole lot of mansion. And so let's go ahead and take a look at Westmoreland and Portland Place. Uh, Both of these neighborhoods, along with 47 other private streets, are going to be laid out by a gentleman named Julius Pittsman. And so you're going to want to just jot his name down and then also document that he designed over 47 private streets. The first private street is near Lafayette Square and Lafayette Park. Uh, and then after the tornado of 1896, that rich neighborhood decided to move further away from the city to get away from the immigrants and get away from the stench of the city. And so they basically moved to what is now called the Central West End. But they still like their privacy. They still like their ability to control who lived on their streets, and basically they were being segregationists. They wanted to have a rich only zone, and so that's what those private streets uh, fulfilled. Here you see an aerial shot. This is Kings Highway right here, this road right here. The hospitals would be way down here. This is Lindell Boulevard, and then this is the beginnings of Forest Park. So there is an entrance. This neighborhood right here, where you see these trees right here, this is Westmoreland Place, and then its next door neighbor right here with these lined trees is Portland Place. And these are the two most expensive neighborhoods. To get there, you just go down Lindell, and then because this is gated and this is gated and this is gated and this is gated right here, the only entrance is right here, this little street, which I'll show you in just a little bit, and this is the only entrance to and from the two neighborhoods. If you paid attention to the summer, you know that a St. Louis couple made national news by pulling guns on Black Lives Matter protesters. They live in this corner house right here, and we're going to study this house because it has actually a famous history to it. So that just puts a little bit in context about where we are and how this neighborhood has been in the news lately. Unfortunately, not for really good reasons. So let's move on. So this is a another diagram of that same neighborhood, but just in graphic form. Again, the X's are gated entrances, and you can see that 4 out of the 5 are gated, and these are permanently gated, so these are not open ever. So the only way to get in is through this little entranceway right here, Lake Avenue. The black diagrams are actually the houses. The white outline diagrams are actually carriage houses. So many of these houses were built before the car, and so your major mode of transportation was the horse and buggy, and you would have needed a place to keep your horse and buggy. And that also served as the servants' quarters as well. Most of these, if they still are existence in that house, and you can see that there's a pretty good number that are, they've been obviously converted into garages and guest houses. Um, and so they are still around today, and they themselves are pretty interesting pieces of architecture. Many of them mimic the architecture of their house. So it's a pretty interesting thing. And you can see again that most of these houses have their original carriage houses. Go ahead and jot down in your notes that Portland Place and Westmoreland Place are going to be created in 1888, again by Julius Pitzman. Um, Many of the residents that will move in will do so again, as we said, after the 1896 tornado. They wanted to get away from basically Lafayette Square is the next door neighbor to Soulard. Soulard is immigrant neighborhood, and so it was just too close for those rich people for their liking, and so they wanted to move further out west, and so here they are in Westmoreland and Portland Place. 79 or 77 of the original 89 houses still stand, so they still have most of the original architecture from when this neighborhood was started. Here you see the entrance from Kings Highway into Westmoreland Place. It has the two pavilion-like towers. Again, this gate is permanently locked, so it never is open. And then this is the Portland Place gate. Now, these gates right here, the entrance, the pedestrian ones are sometimes open, and oftentimes are open. And in fact, that's how the Black Lives Matter got into this neighborhood. And by the way, the residents of that famous couple, they live right here on that corner lot. So that is how the Black Lives Matter got to them so quickly. This is the entrance, the Lake Avenue entrance that I was talking about. This is the only way in or out to Westmoreland and Portland Place. Right here you can see a no trespassing sign. So you are warned that this is a private neighborhood and you're supposed to only be there with permission. The neighborhood is very picturesque, especially in the fall. The streets are often lined with these trees, and in the fall time, they serve as like a canopy, a very colorful canopy over the streets. This neighborhood would have its own leaf pickup. The city does not provide it, but this neighborhood has a contract to have that done. They also have their own private street cleaning for snow removal and whatnot. So they have some amenities that other St. Louis residents do not have since they are on a private street. We're going to go ahead now and take a look at some of the houses in the Westmoreland area. We're going to just go by address. Here is number 1 Westmoreland Place. I was actually lucky enough to be able to go inside. I had a student about 10 years ago whose aunt and uncle lived there. A beautiful residence. The first story is all the living area. Off of that, they have an indoor swimming pool and an outdoor tennis court, so they have some very nice amenities. And then the second floor is mostly bedrooms, and then the third floor has some bedrooms and a ballroom as well. This is that third-story ballroom that they have converted into sort of a dance place. You have the ballerina bar here with the mirrors. You also notice that the skylights are there. Flooring and the walls are all hardwoods, and you'll see hardwoods throughout most of these houses. They have very intricate use of all these hardwoods. Here is number 7 Westmoreland Place. This is, as you can see, Richardsonian Romanesque. You can tell by the archway entrances and the big stone building blocks. Windows are relatively small because the weight of the stone just does not allow for very large window openings. And you'll notice here, right as you walk up, some very intricate stone carved elements to the house. If we get a little closer, you can see there's sort of a face peering out at you as you enter, and then you have 2 angel-like faces greeting you as you walk up to the front door. Number 9 is also Romanesque design. This one looks a little bit more like it's using earthy stone and whatnot. The stones are even bigger on this one as well. You can see here very big chunks. You also tend to see the use of cones in the roof, and you can see a cone portion here and a cone portion there. So very geometric. Number 10, Westmoreland Place. Here we have Italian palazzo style. So the difference here is with Italian palazzo, you're going to have a square or rectangle. Um, Obviously, since it's Italian, you are going to have archways that will be used as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a big fan of ivy. It's destructive. Yes, it looks decent in the summertime, but in the fall and winter, when all you see are the decrepit vines, it makes your house look like it's uninhabited. Basically, it makes it look like it's a haunted house. So please do not use ivy on your houses. If you have it, well, then I guess you're stuck with it. But it's very hard to get rid of, and especially on a beautiful house like this. I don't know why you'd want to hide the front facade, but that's not me. You'll also see that many of these houses have these carriageway entrances. So this is where the horse would pull up because you're not going to pull your horse and buggy to the front and then walk to the front door. So if you had a horse and buggy, you would pull up to the side entrance, which was covered, and then you would enter the house from the side, and then your horse and buggy would proceed to the back where the carriage house is. So a lot of these houses have these old carriageway entrances, which are just basically side entrances to the house, and then allow the carriage and the horses to be then taken to the carriage house in the back. As I said before, large, extensive use of wood. So here we're at the second floor looking at the first to second floor landing. Again, all hardwood floors, hardwood banisters. You'll notice the hardwood beams in the ceiling. Um, Many of these, if they have this first to second story landing, many of them have these stained glass windows as well, and those stained glass windows can be very decorative. This one is one of the more simpler ones, and it just looks like it has like the family crest of the original family that lived there. Um, these these houses do have elevators. Some of them do, and so you may have the ability to get from floor to floor with elevators as well, because there would be 3 stories, 3 livable stories, and that's not including the basement for some of these. Number 16, Westmoreland, was built for one of the Mallinckrodt brothers of Mallinckrodt Chemical that we studied during the German lecture. Um, to me, it looks more like a college dorm here. You've got your dormers that pop out. These would be windows for those third-story bedrooms. Um, a very decorative entrance here, a little porch over the front door. Here it is as you pull up. Number 17 is my favorite. It's another Italian palazzo style. You've got your arched entryways here. This house is also interesting because if you split it in half, the left side is a mirror image of the right side, so they're identical. So it's just a nice little feature. Uh, Beautiful second story balcony right here that you can overlook the front yard. Um, You'll see here a little bit more of an opening, highly decorative chiseled features in the stone here. Just a beautiful, beautiful house. Here it is in the springtime. Again, you can see the carriageway entrance over here to your left. Um, I'm thinking like my barbecue pit would go really nicely here. Maybe my hot tub right over there. So some just nice features in the front. This is the inside, and just wanted to get, again, I'm trying to give you as much interior look of some of these rooms. Here you have the library, um, and again, you have a hardwood floor, and this time you have wallpapered walls with then you have your exposed beams right up here as well. Um, and almost all of these have as many fireplaces as bedrooms because that's how you heated the bedrooms back in the day. So for many of these houses, you might have 5, 6, 7 bedrooms and like 8 or 9 fireplaces. Number 51 Westmoreland Place is unique because it has this L-shaped style to it because the piece of land was a little bit narrower than some of the other parcels of land. And so in order to fit the most amount of house, the original builders sort of did this L-shaped design, which is kind of cool, uh, interesting. It's the only one of its kind in the Westmoreland, Portland Place area. So a nice little look there. And then its next door neighbor right across the street, 52 Westmoreland Place, a little bit more traditional. Uh, you have more of the federal style where it's again symmetrical. You split it right in half, and the left side and the right side are identical. Instead of brick, though, they're using stone. This one has a little bit more of a modern interior look to it. You still have the hardwood floors, but you don't have the beams in the ceilings, but you would have hardwood floors throughout. All right, so now we switch to Portland Place, which is the second neighborhood. This one is the more expensive neighborhood. This one has the more expensive housing. And our first one is the Bush Mansion, but it is also known today as the gun couple, if you will. This is the house where the couple lived that uh, pulled guns on the protesters. You're going to want to jot down number one, Portland Place was built in 1910. It was built for Edward Faust and his wife, Anna Bush Faust. Anna Bush was one of the daughters of Adolphus Bush, and so he bought her this house as a wedding present when she got married. Um, and it was a pretty nice wedding present in that it cost $100,000 back in the day, about 2.5 million in today's money. Um, and then it wasn't quite right when they built it, so they had to add an additional ballroom to the third story, not the second story. That cost an extra $20,000. So figure that's probably more like $300,000. Um, it is Italian palazzo style. It has a really nice side covered balcony right here, or covered porch, and then the balcony on top. The only downside is right over here, just off camera, would be Kings Highway, so it's a pretty busy street that this borders right up to. But you're paying for the history of the house as well as the size and footage of it. Here's a little close-up of it. This is the when you walk into the front door, what you would see: chandeliers. There's a nice picture of the side yard here. I took these early in the morning, so it's not to disturb anybody. Number 9, again, beautiful covered porch here on the side. There's your arched carriageway right here. These houses are a little bit bigger in size than the Westmoreland Place, not by much, but some of these are a little bit bigger. The Bixby Mansion, number 13 Portland Place, is French Renaissance. So it's made out of brick, but then they painted over the brick this gleaming white, so it almost looks like it's made out of white stone or plaster. And then to set off the roof, they used a red tile. And then when we see pictures of the entryway, you're going to see just how highly decorative it was and how they got some stonemasons to chisel 2 lions into the entrance, plus some decorative things around the archway, including these beautiful fleur-de-lis. And again, you can see just how the white and red really make each other stand out on this. And then what's also unique about this house is that the carriage house is a mini replica of this house. So when you go in the backyard to the carriage house, it also is white with a red roof that has this French Renaissance design. This is what it looked like back when it was originally built and its next door neighbor wasn't there. And so you'll notice, like, with none of the trees, It definitely is hidden a little bit more today than it was back when it was first built. Here is the entranceway. Again, this was all hand chiseled by stonemasons, so that would added to the cost. Plus, you can see right here and just off camera right here, these are stone lions that are holding up shields. That also would have been highly decorative and expensive. 15 Portland Place is the Orthwein Mansion. The Orthweins will marry into the Bush family. And so the Orthweins were relatively rich themselves, but then once you marry into the Bush family, it just takes you to a whole nother level. Here is the Orthwein Mansion, and again, notice the highly decorative uh, features around the roof line, as well as the second story porch way. And then you also have the decorative features right above the windows and in between the windows as well. And then just the beautiful landscaped entry. Here's what some of them look like. Again, you have the unique ceilings. Again, you'd have living room, or this might be the library, and then living room right here, dining room back there. Again, all hardwood floors, as you notice. The dining room with crystal chandeliers. You would have had fireplaces in almost all of these major rooms downstairs. Again, so there's as many, if not more, fireplaces than bedrooms in these. And now you're starting to get up into the higher square footage as well. Here is the billiards room, which is right off of the living room area, so beautifully done here. And then here you go from the first story to the second story. Now you can see what I mean by the highly decorative stained glass windows. You also have a beautiful crystal chandelier, and then they decided to paint the wood white here. That goes all the way up from the first to second stories. Number 19, Portland Place. Again, uh, you have the Romanesque design with the cone roofs and the arched entranceway. Not a big fan of the color. I think they could have done some different things. 23 Portland Place. Again, not sure about the stripage here at the first story. Again, nice size house. You've got your decorative portions here above the first story, and then you have, again, some decorative features right above all the windows. Here you have an extended bay window on the second floor. This is what it looks like in modern pictures. 25 Portland Place, the Jackson Johnson Mansion, one of the largest, if not the largest mansion in Portland Place, uh, was actually built for the McMillan family. Uh, and then today it's the Jackson Johnson one, built in 1892. Again, huge side yard here, and then they also bought the property next door on the other side, and so they have two gigantic side yards. I guess they wanted their space and didn't want to have the feeling that their next door neighbors were right on top of them. So here it is. Again, they have a circular driveway that's in front, as well as the driveway that goes to the back. So that's how big their front space is with that circular driveway. Again, you can see the roof line, very decorative, and then second story decorations and first story. They wanted to make sure that they had a different motif for each level of the house. And then this is the next door neighbor section that would have had a house back in the original days, but they bought the property at some point in time, and now they just have this giant side yard, again, to give them a lot of space compared to their neighbors. There it is in the springtime. Number 30, Portland Place. Again, this is my reasoning why you don't have ivy. This is what it looks like around Halloween when the ivy has died off, and it basically looks like you are living in a haunted house or the house has been abandoned. Um, when you're paying, when these mansions are going anywhere from close to $1 million or more, I just don't know why you would do that to your beautiful mansion, but these people have, and so that's what it looks like in the fall. 33 Portland Place is unique because it's it's about the length of a 40 yards of a football field. And so you literally can run a 40-yard dash in this house because it does have a hallway that runs the length of the home. And so you could literally run a 40-yard dash inside of this house. When you walk into the front door here, there's the front entrance. So you've got the Greek Corinthian columns. And then this is the entryway. This is the entry foyer. Here's the front door just off camera. And so you can see the hallway goes up these stairs and then down. And then behind the photographer, you would also be able to go down that hallway as well. This is what it looks like looking into the front door right here. The hallway is right here to your right and left. So you get a little bit of an idea of the entryway to this house. 36 Portland Place. So if you remember Herman Luty's back when we talked about uh, Bellefontaine Cemetery and how he wanted a statue of his Italian girlfriend, and then he had it placed in his home. This is the home that he had it in. This is the home that the floor buckled because the statue was so heavy that it could not handle its weight, and so they had to move the statue to a storage area until he died. This is the Herman Luty's mansion. Again, you can see the Corinthian Greek columns. You can see the highly decorative front door. It looks like it's almost stained glass. And then on the inside, a little bit more modern motif, again with the carpeting, covering up some of the hardwood floors. Here you see some of the hardwood floors exposed, the bay window right here. So still a beautiful home. And then 45 Portland Place, we're going to want you to jot down because it's the only contemporary modern home in the neighborhood. And because of its contemporary modern design, when the Bear family wanted to build it, the neighborhood actually sued them because they didn't feel like it fit the motif of the neighborhood. And so they tried to get them to stop the building of this house. Obviously, they lost that lawsuit. And so what the neighborhood was left with was this house right here, built in 1953 for the Bear family. If you know Dillard's, Dillard's was once called Sticks, Bear, and Fuller, and this is the Bear family from Sticks, Bear, and Fuller. It's the second house to stand on. They unfortunately tore down the original to build this one, the only contemporary design. So here it is today. Now today these trees are a little bit thicker and fuller so that they do offer some privacy, but you'll notice that the entire front of the house is all glass. And then you've got these horizontal and vertical lines running everywhere. You have this giant 6-foot urn in the front. It just is a mismatch compared to its neighbors all throughout Westmoreland and Portland Place. And now you can see why the neighborhood had it sued. I'm sure it's a lovely house, but I just don't understand the concept of having your front of the house all glass so that everybody can see in, so that now you're spending, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on drapery because your house has all glass front to it. And then here are just some more houses in the Portland Place area. So that's our look at Westmoreland, Portland Place. If you liked any of these, I would highly suggest you look up on Zillow or any of the real estate websites how much they're worth. Most of the houses that we saw today are worth well over $1 million. And some of them are approaching 2 to 3 million. And then some of them will even, if they're for sale, real estate agents are taking drones through the houses so that you get drone footage inside of them. So I highly suggest you take a look at some of those. It's very interesting to see how the other half live. Hope you enjoyed it, and that's all for now.